Okay, if people want to try to find a seat, we'll get the technical stuff going. If everyone could find a seat, we'll get started. Good evening. I'd like to call the June 8th Common Council meeting to order. The time is 7 o'clock and the meeting notices were mailed and posted. This is a hybrid meeting. It's being held in person and via Zoom conferencing. I'll continue with the roll call. Joanne, could you do that for us?
Mayor Kim Smith,
Here.
Tom Smith,
Here.
Jim Olson,
Here.
Dan Stevens,
I am present.
Diane Wolf,
Here.
Stephen Knott,
Present.
Carrie Burmaster.
Here. Everyone is present. Item 2, Pledge of Allegiance. Please rise. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Thank you. Item 3, the rules of the City of Onalaska Common Council and its subcommittees. This is a harassment-free forum. The City Council and its subcommittee meetings shall be conducted in a courteous manner. Citizens, council, and committee members shall be allowed to state their position in an atmosphere free of slander, insults, obscene remarks, threats of violence, or for the use of the council or committee as a forum for politics. Sufficient warnings may be given by the Sergeant at Arms at any time during the remarks, and in the event that any individual shall violate the rules of decorum heretofore set forth, such person may then be cut off from comment or debate. Item 4 is public input. This is the opportunity where the public can address the Common Council. Please begin by stating your name and address, and please limit your comments to 3 minutes. Would anyone like to address the Common Council this evening? Second call, if anyone would like to address the Common Council, now is the time to do so. Third and final call, if anyone from the public would like to address the Common Council. Public input is now closed. Item 5 is a report from the mayor, and we'll start out with the fire department recognitions. Item 1 is Jason Veldblum, promotion to Lieutenant of B shift. I'll turn it over to our Fire Chief Goody.
Thank you, Mayor. Tonight we have a pinning ceremony for 2 of our fire officers. First, starting with Jason Veldblum. He was promoted to be shift lieutenant May 28th of this year. He is an 11-year member of the Onalaska Fire Department. He has 2 boys with him, Jack and Owen, and joined tonight by his father, Dean, and other family members. Jason he likes trail running, mountain biking, skiing as a member of the ski patrol, woodworking, hunting, fishing, and smoking all kinds of meats. His specialty is pulled pork. Thought you'd like to hear that, Dan.
We'll have to have a contest and see if it matches up.
It's coming. But Jason's a very strong leader and well respected by all of our members. So I'd like to bring him up now, and then I believe his father's going to do the pinning. And next, it's been a little while, but we have Les Noren. He was appointed to Assistant Fire Chief. His first day was June 1st, 2021. He's a retired captain, 30 years with the Davenport, Iowa Fire Department. His department he came from has 134 members that respond to over 18,000 calls per year and protects a population of approximately 121,000. So he does have a lot of experience that he brings with him. He is a national registered paramedic and hazmat technician. His education includes a master's degree in organizational leadership He's a graduate of the Executive Fire Officers Program. Tonight he's joined by wife Chelsea and son Aiden and Spencer. Mother Nancy is also here. And his hobbies include travel, motorcycle riding, and fan of Chicago Blackhawks. So he's a hockey fan.
We're going to officially swear in Les tonight. So if you want to raise your right hand and repeat after me. I, Les Noren,
I, Les Noren,
having been appointed to
having been appointed to
the office of Assistant Fire Chief
the office of Assistant Fire Chief
of the City of Onalaska,
of the City of Onalaska,
swear that I will support
swear that I will support
the Constitution of the United States
the Constitution of the United States
and the Constitution of the State of Wisconsin,
and the Constitution of the State of Wisconsin,
and will faithfully and impartially
and will faithfully and impartially
discharge the duties of said office
discharge the duties of said office
to the best of my ability,
to the best of my ability,
so help me God.
so help me God.
Congratulations. I can have you officially-
Congratulations to Lieutenant Veldblum and also Assistant Fire Chief Noren. But we're not done yet. It must be fire department night at the council meeting. Next up, for Lieutenant Wayne Nagy, we have a retirement proclamation for 26 years of service. So this is a proclamation of thanks to Wayne Nagy for his service to the city of Onalaska. Whereas Wayne Nagy has served as a firefighter for the city of Onalaska for 26 years, starting as a part-time and transitioning to full-time as the city and department grew. And whereas Wayne Nagy previously served the town of Campbell Fire Department and first responders for 7 years prior to his employment in Onalaska. And whereas Wayne Nagy has saved countless lives as he responded to over 10,000 calls for service. And whereas Wayne Nagy has fought several major fires and assisted with multiple water rescues. And whereas Wayne Nagy has achieved special hazmat training and served on the La Crosse Regional Hazmat Team. And whereas Wayne Nagy has demonstrated leadership within his profession by being instrumental in establishing the Mavis Division 134 and serving as an officer for the IAFF Local 4169. And whereas Wayne Nagy has been a mentor and a friend to his fellow firefighters, and whereas Wayne Nagy has educated thousands of children about fire safety, and whereas Wayne Nagy's presence at the fire station will be missed by many, not only those within the station, but by the entire community. And now therefore I, Kim Smith, Mayor of the City of Onalaska, on behalf of the citizens, do recognize and officially thank Wayne Nagy for his dedication and years of service to the City of Onalaska. Thank you. Okay, that was the fun part of the meeting. Thank you all for coming. Recommendations for approval and/or possible action from the following committees, commissions, and boards. All items listed under the consent agenda are considered routine and will be enacted by one motion. There will be no separate discussion of these items unless a council member requests removal, in which event the item will be removed from the consent agenda and considered in the order of business in the non-consent agenda. Are there any items that people would like removed from the consent agenda? Not seeing anyone. If someone would like to make a motion regarding the consent agenda.
I move that we approve the consent agenda.
Second.
Motion by Alder Dan Stevens, seconded by Alder Jim Olson to approve the consent agenda. Any further discussion? All those in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
Those opposed say no. Motion carries unanimously. Moving on to the non-consent agenda, item 7 would have been a recap of items pulled from the consent agenda, but there were none. So we'll move on to item 8, finance. Alder Stevens. Or wait,
Stevens is
no,
not in, the finance
sorry.
anymore.
I messed up. Alder Wolf.
That was last year. So you have it out. Thank you, Your Honor. Item 8A under finance vouchers. The following is a list of monies expended since the last common council meeting dated May 11th, 2021 in the amount of $1,420,172.61. I move that we approve said vouchers.
Second.
Okay, motion by Alder Wolf, seconded by Alder Smith to approve the vouchers. Is there any discussion?
Second.
Alder Smith got the
Yes,
second. Okay, I'm not hearing any discussion. All those in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
Those opposed say no. Motion passes unanimously.
Item 8B is City of Onalaska Claims Handling Procedure. The Finance Committee met last week, and we did approve in concept unanimously this item, and we placed it on the non-consent agenda for further discussion with other council members. But I will make the motion to approve the City of Onalaska Claims Handling Procedure with an added item on page 10 of the packet under claims processing. The very first paragraph that ends in is legally binding on the city. I have confirmed with legal to add the sentence, the council will be notified via email when each claim has reached resolution. So that is my motion.
Second. Or Wolf, could you repeat where it was in the,
Sure. Page 10, at the very top where it starts off claim processing, and then the first paragraph starts off the finance committee, blah, 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 and so and it ends, that paragraph ends, or official is legally binding on the city. That is where I would add, and legal confirmed, she said this is where she would add it. The council will be notified via email when each claim has reached resolution.
I seconded that.
Okay, so we have a motion on the floor by Alder Wolf, seconded by Alder Smith, which is the procedure as described in our packet with the additional sentence added. Is there further discussion? Alder Smith?
Yeah, I think one of the reasons why we wanted to bring it to the bigger council and non-consent was just that, I guess this has been in the past, we've had this, and we've always voted to make sure that the council knew every payment that went out the door. So this allows us to allow the under, is that $5,000, I believe, to be under it. And one of the concerns was if we have a disgruntled citizen because their claim was denied, not knowing about it, without having some head forwarding kind of thing. So we suggested we come back, and what Diane just added, I think, takes care of that. At least we're notified if there, and like, so most of the time we deny them, but if there is a payment, or even if there's denial, it would be nice just to know that as a heads up in case we get someone in our district who is not happy with that decision, they're going to come to us. And so this just gives us a heads up. So that's the reason why we wanted to bring it to the bigger council, to see if everyone felt that was a good solution, that was a compromise. So.
Okay, Alder Knott next.
Yeah, so read this and thought about it a lot, actually, and I actually have some concerns. First off, the $5,000 limit of having one individual basically be the judge, jury, executioner, make that one decision seems to me to be very high. It doesn't take too many $5,000 decisions to make a real impact in our budget. I did some research on this, and I looked at 2 like cities to see if they had something similar. And I mean, we're not even close to them. That doesn't mean that we're wrong. It could be they're wrong. I don't know, but it's certainly different. In each case, And they were Middleton and Stevens Point, by the way, the ones I looked at online to see what their ordinances were. That it was the finance director who would make the decision if it was below a cap, and then would have to inform and get a cosign from the city administrator in both cases. In the case of Middleton, it was $50 or less. It was nowhere near the $5,000 we have. I have also a concern. I don't believe it's the attorney for the city who should be making these decisions. The city attorney provides legal advice. They don't make decisions, and my understanding is most attorneys and organizations, in fact, every attorney in every organization I've been in, they're not deciding people. They are there to provide legal advice and legal opinions to the city to try to keep them out of trouble. But ultimately, we have the elected officials and we have directors and then the city administrator who make the decisions based upon policies, ordinances, and the budget that's been passed. So I don't think that's the attorney who should be doing it. I also don't think that $5,000 is reasonable. I think it should be less than that. I would recommend that maybe we need to research this more. I'm thinking maybe that the staff can do a comparison chart of some kind with this policy compared to 4 to 5 other cities of like size, especially looking at what the decision thresholds are and who's making those decisions prior to it coming to a council level. And then the last thing, I'm sorry, I'll get my last concern is, I don't know that, we've had several of these come before us before, but it's only been small numbers. So these aren't overbearing numbers. I don't know why we just don't have them all coming to us anyway, because it's just not a lot of them unless I'm missing something. So those are all my concerns.
Okay, thank you. Maybe Eric, would you like to respond before we go to the next question about how we came to this point?
My experience elsewhere has been city attorney has had authority to do so, but this is the first place I've had a city attorney on staff. Generally, then the claims have been sent off to our offsite attorneys. The attorneys review them, settle them, and neither staff nor council is aware of it. That's been my experience in like McFarland and Edgar and Lodi, where we did not have on-staff attorneys. So I'm comfortable with having attorney review this. If there's additional review, keep in mind the intent here isn't to settle claims that would not normally be settled. The point here is for, I guess, customer service issue. Someone files a claim, which generally are rejected, that they can be rejected quickly, not sitting on their hands with expectations of, oh, hey, it's going to go to council, and then maybe council will do so. Civic, as our insurance carrier, would advise against that. They would advise against having the small claims settled or at least denied relatively quickly. Otherwise, settlement of a claim no longer becomes an insurance issue, becomes a political issue. And they would much rather have it in the legal and the finance, insurance, or legal side versus the political side for some of those claims. So I've also been places where it's been higher amounts than 5,000. You also have evidence that shows it's $5, so it's substantially lower than where we are. It's a decision the council makes. The intent here was for more or less customer service and timeliness. We only meet once a month for some claims. And I think we've had some expectations where we're telling people right now, send it to council and there's a good chance of it. We're not saying it, but there's a good chance of being passed. But I think the idea is that there's a good chance that their claim will be settled and passed. Our insurance company won't allow it to be approved anyway. So I really think, the focus isn't on paying out the amount. The goal here is to deny them in a more rapid and open fashion.
Thank you. I think Alder Wolf wanted to go next, and then we'll go to Alder Stevens next. You still want to go next, or should we go to Stevens?
That was so long ago, I've forgotten.
Okay, Steve.
Remember, I'll put my hand back up again.
Sure.
I don't remember.
Go ahead, Alder Stevens.
I think anything that we can do in this is an opportunity for us to speed up the wheel of government. And I guess I would disagree with Alder Knott. We have vested in our city attorney the ability to make decisions. One example is to settle bad debts for people that had tickets. But she's a highly trained, competent professional, and I think that I feel good about putting authority for staff to do these decisions that when they come to us, we are likely to find the same way anyway. So this speeds up the process. We don't have to wait for it to be posted and have a full month go by. Secondly, the other aspect, I like Alder Wolf's amendment because it allows us to have some degree of oversight. If we don't like what has happened, then we can rein that in. So I would avoid the analysis paralysis. Let staff do their job. We still need to keep our eye on the ball. And I think this is a good solution to that. So I would support this.
Thank you. Anyone else? Alder not? Oh,
You can go over.
okay.
to the
Well,
city attorney.
let's let city attorney respond, and then Alder not, if you want to be next after that, you can be.
I was just going to mention that I did survey several communities. I put it out on, we have a municipal attorney listserv to inquire what other municipalities' limits are. I admittedly did not compare it by population per se, but I found that the vast majority were all over the place, primarily ranging from 1,000 up to, quite honestly, Stephen Matty has like 25,000 to 50,000. He can approve in La Crosse. I think that's an astronomically high number, but found to be that kind of the low end of average was 5,000, which is why I went with that number. And the policy itself, I borrowed heavily from Menasha and Manitowoc's policies to put it together. But as far as the attorney approving it, it was fairly common among all the cities I surveyed that it was either the attorney's office or the finance director. As the person who most recently is the one talking to people after they get their denial, the biggest complaint we get from citizens is the time and that they don't understand the likelihood of denial. And so part of the goal with this process was to make it more transparent and also make it clear that there are things that are historically and kind of systematically denied, such as sidewalk claims, slip and falls, and things like that. The vast majority of claims are denied in the city. I mean, we're talking under probably 2% that ever are considered for approval.
Thank you. Alder not, and then Alder Wolf.
So the denials are not my concern here. I actually have that written down. The denials don't bother me because they don't commit monies from our budget. It's the other 2% that you mentioned that are my main concern here. And I actually believe that that is our job as elected officials. It's not the analysis paralysis. It needs to get on to a agenda. I would argue that the finance department definitely has to be aware of this, and that committee should know about any kind of funds that are potentially going to be awarded. And I do think it needs to come before the Common Council as well. I mean, the finances of the city is one of our primary purposes for existing as elected officials, I would argue, is the financial stability. So not so worried about whether or not somebody can make a decision to deny. I'm more worried about a decision being made unilaterally to commit funds, and then we just find out through an information email later. That I have concerns with.
Thank you. Alder Wolf.
Thank you, Your Honor. So I have just a couple questions. My first question would be of Fred and or Eric, and then I want to reserve my time for a second follow-up question. Do we have a budget for claims? I couldn't remember offhand. I think I know the answer, but I'm going to ask the expert.
Okay, if it's a general fund claim, we have what they call SIR, self-insured retention. So we are responsible for the first $5,000 of any claim that's a general fund related. If it's an enterprise fund, the enterprise fund is charged for those costs.
Thank you.
But we don't set aside money.
We have budgeted in the, if you look in your financials, it'll be in the 100-519 series. We usually budget around 5,000 or so. Depends on what the budget can handle.
Okay, thank you.
Okay. Alder Wolf, you wanted to continue?
Yes, and the reason why I brought forth the amendment was because of the discussion that did occur at Finance. And there seemed to be some consensus that we did want to know. And I just want to make sure that everyone does understand that the intent of it is that we will be notified via email when each claim has reached resolution, whether they've been denied and or when they have been paid. So I just want to make sure that was perfectly clear. Thank you. And I will be supporting this evening.
Okay, so hearing that explanation makes me think that, and correct me if I'm wrong, Amanda or Eric, that if the claims exceeded $5,000, it wouldn't be budgeted money and it would have to come before council anyway. Is that true? Eric?
The general fund, the first 5,000 we'd pay for. Anything beyond that, that's the insurance company. And then, of course, there's exceptions to that, but that's the general rule. That's why we have the insurance. We have the first 5,000 and all claims will have to pay.
Okay. Alder Burmaster hasn't talked yet, and then we can come back to you.
And the only concern that I would have is we got that $5,000 there, but say we have 2 claims that come in that year. And if we end up paying under the 5,000 on each one of those, it could be over the 5,000 that we've budgeted. So then it would be an unbudgeted expense.
Yeah, it's
So I'm kind of see where Steve is coming from that, then, maybe we should be seeing that when it goes over that budgeted amount. I don't know if that would maybe be a different option, because we do know that there's that lump of money there, and maybe after it goes over that budgeted amount, we would want to be seeing those, because then it would go into that unbudgeted status.
Alder Stevens?
I think it's important to point out that we don't pay claims based on what's allowed in the budget. We pay claims based on what our liability is. So whether there was that $5,000 limit or not, if we have multiple claims, it's either it goes through the long process or it goes through the short process. It's more of a matter of, are we liable? And if we are, we're going to have to pay that. So do we want to do this the quick way or the slow way?
When I brought that up, it wasn't from that context. It was that if it was unbudgeted, if we didn't have any money budgeted for it, that the council should be alerted to it anyway before the funds were expended. So I was wondering if that could be another, like a fail safe for letting the council know and have a participation if there were going to be multiple claims paid off. Just wondering if that could address Aldernot's concerns.
I maybe would offer, I'm not sure if I have this developed to an amendment point yet, but if the funds were expended, perhaps it could automatically be put on the finance committee to refund that if necessary halfway through the budget year. Before I make an amendment, I'm kind of looking to see if that would have support or not.
Let's let the city attorney comment. Amanda?
I guess I wasn't planning to comment directly to that, but I just wanted to add that this would never be a unilateral decision. I would not be the only person ever deciding whether or not to adopt somebody's claim and approve it. I mean, quite honestly, it would be a consultation primarily with our insurance carrier, who's likely going to weigh in, a conversation with Eric, likely the mayor and the council president. At the time, it's never going to be a unilateral decision by one person. But I would agree with Dan that it's really not a question of budget. It's a question of liability. I mean, if we're in a situation and we have to pay, we have to pay. And it's just a matter, of discussing where we're going to have that money come from. And if there were ever a concern where that was something, that was not a clear answer, even if it was under 5,000, I would bring it to council and FMP.
Okay. Aldernot?
Yes, it's a challenge of both liability and budget. And you actually answered that with the end of that, Amanda, where you said that the big challenge then is if it starts to exceed that $5,000 fund, then now we got to figure out from where in the budget we're going to get it, which makes it a budget problem too. And that's where it's really our responsibility as elected officials to be aware of that budget. And as far as a short or long process, coming to council, it would go to, I would recommend going, to the finance committee. But certainly needs to somehow get to us. You're only talking a 30-day, period with that. Once an initial legal review and recommendation is made, it's going to be 30 more days. It's not what I would call a long process. I think it's the city's process. It's a republic's process. That's the way it works. So.
Okay, any other comments? Or questions? Okay, so the motion that we have on the floor is to approve the policy with the sentence added, the Onalaska Claims Handling Procedure, with the sentence that Alder Wolf described. That is the motion on the floor. So all in favor, please say aye.
Your Honor, point of order, are we voting on the amendment or are we voting on?
She made the motion with that. That was part of the original motion, was that sentence. Does anyone need the sentence repeated? Okay, all in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
Those opposed say no.
No.
Okay, motion carries 5-1. Is that correct? Okay, thank you. Okay, thank you for your good discussion. Item 9, personnel.
9A, potential modifications to the body camera policy. It was a recommendation of personnel to approve, and I will make the motion to approve the potential modifications to the body camera policy.
I'll second.
Motion by Alder Wolf, seconded by Alder Knott. Is there any discussion? Alder Knott?
Yeah, just one question / concern. I'm wondering if we need to maybe have an amendment on here that talks to the training. My concern is we need to have a near universal uniformity on the application of this, or we have the potential of looking at a public relations or possible legal challenge to it. Where I'm going with this is if we don't have that kind of uniformity, then if a police officer, with these cameras, does not have it switched on, either because they didn't follow the training or they decided they didn't think that it met the criteria for turning it on, and that it developed into that quickly, then the default of a good portion of society, maybe not the majority, but it's going to be, okay, they're covering something up. And that's my concern. So I don't know if there needs to be some type of maybe administrative comment in here about, counseling or what have you, if training is not followed. I don't know. I trust our officers. I don't want to go down that path. I hope that's not the way I'm coming across. The concern is that this has to be universal and uniform, or there's a potential of having a problem. And that's really my only concern. I don't know if Chief Ashbeck is on or not.
Could you maybe
He's
be
behind
more?
me. Okay, great.
So what do you think is not uniform about it? Or
Well,
could you be more specific? Is it just me or?
I didn't see, and maybe I just overlooked it. Is there anything in here about, administrative response for being able to counsel or correct, especially when this first gets implemented and the officers are first learning it?
Welcome, Chief Ashbeck.
Good evening. The policy does state, the situations, and in fact, it even states that we need to err on the side of caution and activate the camera if officers are not sure if that situation applies or not. But I guess what I would caution is, we would need to put something probably in every policy then if we're saying if you don't follow this policy that you could face some type of discipline or, retraining, that kind of thing. So I don't want to say it's as simple as it's assumed if you don't follow this policy, you're going to be either counseled, probably initially, unless it's something really flagrant type of violation that could rise to the level of a discipline.
I understand. So you think it's inferred in there already? But yeah, again, it's the beginning as we implement all this, that any challenges we have, there's going to be some that are just flat out, oops, and we have to learn these new processes. That's all.
Okay, I think Eric Reinfleisch would like
You
to
have
say-
also someone hidden behind you over there too, so.
Clearly, in the public's eyes right now, it's sort of a hot topic. But in the department, it's one of how many policies right now?
I couldn't-
It's one of how many policies right now?
At least 160.
Policies, all policies have to be abided by the officers anytime. And for the public's sake, then, well, it's not in this particular policy, as Chief was mentioning. It's not just an inferral, it's part of the disciplinary policy and performance, policies of the department as well. Their expectation is to follow all the policies. This one just happens to be one that's, the spotlight's on right now, but the officers are well aware, I'm sure that, like all policies, it's part of the training and that they need to follow.
And the beauty of the Lexipol system is, everything is pushed out electronic, it's all tracked. They have to acknowledge it, it's all tracked in that way that when they signed off on it and whatnot. So it helps with our record keeping process.
Thank you. Alder Knott, did you have something else?
No, I just let you know, you got somebody hidden over in your
Oh,
left.
I'm sorry. You were looking at me and then
I was
Sorry.
just going to point out that the policy does require that if an officer fails to activate their body worn camera or fails to record an entire contact or interrupts the recording, that they do have to document why the recording was not made, was interrupted or terminated. And that will also help us determine trends, if it's an oops thing and it's a training thing, or if we're seeing something for any reason that causes us concern, we do have that documentation.
I overlooked that. Thank you. I did not see that in there, but okay.
Okay,
Thank you.
I think we're done discussing that. Thank you very much, Chief and Amanda. So we have a motion on the floor to approve the modification of the body camera policy. That is the motion that is on the floor. All those in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
Those opposed say no. Motion carries unanimously. Thank you.
Item 9B under personnel, recruitment of a new financial services director. Is this Eric or Amanda?
Or Amy. Welcome.
Good evening. We did hold interviews this morning with two candidates, with our department heads, and had some really good responses. We're in the process of reaching out to a candidate for that position, and hopefully we'll have an update by tomorrow.
Okay,
Fingers crossed, huh?
thank you. We can hold off on the recruitment then. Thank you. Good news. Okay, no action on that. Item 10, judiciary. Alder Burmaster, am I wrong?
Nope, you're right.
Sorry. I figured since I messed up on finance and personnel, I might as well mess up on A&J too.
You're good.
Item A is ordinance 1708-2021, an ordinance to amend section 22 and 51, division 2 of chapter 2 of title 7 of the Code of Ordinances of the City of Onalaska relating to classes of licenses and requirements for outdoor venue license. It was a recommendation from the Judiciary Committee to approve this, and I make that in the form of a motion.
I'll second.
Thank you. We have a motion on the floor by Alder Burmaster, seconded by Alder Knott to approve ordinance 1708-2021. Is there any discussion? Alder Knott.
Yeah, just very briefly. So this was put on the non-consent agenda at my request, but just because I like to cause confusion where none would otherwise exist, I can explain why that was, and it's already resolved in my mind, so I'm good with this. The discussions, if you read the minutes, were that there was a lack of uniformity between the retail Class B liquor license and the outdoor venue license. And maybe 2 minutes after we adjourned, the attorney clarified to me where my confusion was, and that's that the outdoor venue license requires a retail license to get the outdoor license, and then you are still required to abide by the constraints of the retail license, so there really is uniformity. I have no problem with this. So.
Thank you for clarifying. Is there any other discussion? Okay, the motion is to approve. All those in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
Those opposed say no. Motion carries unanimously. Item 11, Plan Commission, was concerning item A, Development Agreement with Traditional Trades LLC. I'll turn that one over to City Administrator Eric Reinflush or City Planner Katie Aspenson.
Being circulated at this moment is a agreement with Traditional Trades LLC for the Fields Area C. What we hope to be the first of many developments in this area. This is substantially similar to what has been presented in the past. For you, there are some minor changes. Developer is in agreement, and with approval, we'll sign the agreement.
Not included before you this evening are the exhibits. We're still working on them with Traditional Trades, getting the finalized site plans and utility plans, and eventually the letter of credit that we'll use for the park fee while we allow their development to progress. So they are willing to sign the agreement. We're just working out some last final details. So we are, as Eric said, requesting that you consider this evening.
So there are some clerical areas like the date being put in, the exhibits being attached, notary blocks being added and what have you. So our request to the council is, I recommend approval of the agreements with the understanding that the clerical updates will occur after the fact, but only clerical, nothing of substantial changes to it. And then for public purpose, this agreement, it does really two main things. One, it helps direct the oversizing of the sewer that will eventually serve areas for future development to the south of this project. And so developer will be taking on the expense up front. And this is using the TIF district, and an increment generated by the project will then go to offset those oversizing costs that the developer has. So it's basically building larger and deeper sewer than necessary for the project it needs to have, but it's to the city's benefit so that we can then tie into future development in the Mayo property with sewer. The sewer has to come through there one way or the other. The other main area here is for the park fees. And basically the city would be receiving substantial areas of bluff land in exchange for paying, in lieu of paying the park fees that would be required otherwise. So we don't have to pay to acquire bluff land. It's a large portion of that bluff that's overlooking that area would become city park, as well as then the construction of a trail accessing the bottom portion of that bluff for public use, not for private use, but for public use. That would be connected.
Thank you. Councilors?
I move that we approve the development agreement with Traditional Trades LLC as presented this evening.
I'll second.
The caveat that the clerical.
Yes, with minor clerical updates to follow. Yes, thank you.
Second.
Okay, Aldernon, did you make the second? Okay, so we have a motion to approve the agreement. Once the missing information is inserted, motion was by Alder Wolf, seconded was by Alder Knott. Discussion. Alder Smith.
I just have a question, Katie. When would like the turnover to the park for the bluffs or for the city, would that be like later phase one or a later time, or is there a time frame for that?
So the development is going to occur over a series of stages. So the very first portion of Area C includes 360 multifamily units, and they're going to do it over a series of 4 parts. So before they're able to get occupancy of that third phase, they need to turn over a finished trail and the parkland, or the city can cash the letter of credit and take those park fees and pursue accordingly. So we're hoping it'll be in the next 5 years. It all depends on how fast the builder can go.
Thank you.
And Kitty, what is the approximate acreage of the parkland?
I think it's approximately 20 acres.
Okay.
There, in the map, there will be an exhibit that specifically shows the area and it will be highlighted with an acre. So if I am speaking correctly, it will be correct in the document. And we'll know exactly what land we will be getting, as they'll have to dedicate that to us through a legal document.
Thank you. Any other questions or comments? Eric?
In the development of development agreements, for your sake, just be aware that the staff is taking the view of risk very seriously, and the risk versus reward. And so, you know, we had Marvin's project, that's a PAYGO type of project that if the development did not succeed, then there's no risk really to the city to make any payments. This is not a PAYGO TID, but this development is acting very much as one. So, you know, upon approval of the agreement, we're not sending any money out. It's only upon successful completing various phases and performance will the city then have to reimburse for those costs. So again, it's very low risk for the city with this development. Or there's, like other TID districts, we're not signing a big check. We're not borrowing funds for this project up front. It's only in retrospect after the developer performs.
Thank you. Any other questions or comments? Okay, the motion on the floor is to approve the development agreement with Traditional Trades with the missing info added. All those in favor, please say aye.
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 Those opposed say no. Motion carries unanimously. I know that was a lot of work for you all. Thank you very much for putting that together. We appreciate it. Item 12, report from the city administrator. Eric?
In the packet is Resolution 32-2021. It is a resolution authorizing ongoing hiring for budget city positions. And Amanda, please correct me if I misspeak in any of these. The purpose of the resolution is that the council had approved one already last year, pre-pandemic. So for budgeted positions that may become vacant, instead of, again, waiting for up to 4 weeks for the council to meet and then start the recruiting, that would be able to recruit for those vacant positions right away, so long as there was no change in the grade or of the position and any substantial change in the position. That resolution has sunsetted, and so the request is, if it had been working for the council, we request that we continue that going forward.
I move that we approve Resolution 32-2021.
Second.
We have a motion on the floor by Alder Wolf, seconded by Alder Smith to approve the resolution. Is there any discussion? Alder Wolf?
Thank you, Your Honor. I think that, personally speaking, I think that what we have done in the past year plus has worked very well. I think it's a very fair trade-off. As long as we have continued, and we have continued to have our monthly report, whether they've been oral or in written form. I, for one, have really appreciated that. And I think, like I said, I think it's a fair trade-off. Right now, especially in lieu of times that we're in, it is all about trying to speed up the recruitment process and not standing in the way of staff trying to do their job and fill positions that are really needed at this time, and even in times when they're not needed so quickly. But I think this has worked very well, and I will certainly be supporting this evening. Thank you.
Thank you. Any other comments or questions? Okay, the motion, oh, sorry, Alder Stevens, I didn't see that.
I just wondered if we could take this moment to ask staff, I mean, did this seems like it was a good idea in theory, but we're not the ones that really practice this. Did this help move the process along? Or, I mean, I don't really see that we had any pitfalls on it. I
answer on my behalf, but I guess I'll let the staff, if they disagree with me, answer on their behalf. I think it has sped things, further along, keeping in mind that the policy statement from the council is the budget document. And so by having this there, we're trying to continuously meet the budget document, which is particular staffing levels. And as we talked about over a year ago, any changes to that, though, that's a change to the policy that needs to come back to council. You do need to review that. But I think in the absence of any changes, I think has been a far more efficient way. That is one less thing that a department head or staff has to worry about when a vacancy occurs. Is now I have to wait before the council approves it. We can start that recruitment right away.
So this was well received by staff, and
I believe so. Yes. You got to move your seat, Amanda. No one can see it.
Okay, city attorney, Amanda?
I was just going to give a real life example, and Dan, you can jump in if you want, but for instance, we have a vacancy in the Park and Rec Office Specialist position, and we have 20 applicants today, and that ends on Friday, and we're looking at recruiting and interviewing possibly maybe even next week, if not early the week after, sooner than later. And had we had to go through the old process, we would just be discussing approving that position and posting it tonight. And so I really do think it has an expedited impact on our staff and on the people here at the city.
Thank you. Are there any other city staff that would like to comment on this topic? Alrighty then, don't say we didn't ask.
Your Honor, Your Honor.
What? Okay,
could just
okay, thumbs up, I see, all right.
I could just add quickly too, and obviously if it is streamlining it for staff, it's streamlining it for our constituents. Because if there aren't people there to do the job, then they're waiting longer in line, they're not getting a phone call returned. So to me, it's just a win-win situation all around. So I think it's been a proven model, and that's why I continue to wholeheartedly support it. Thank you.
Okay, any other discussion? Okay, the motion on the floor is to approve resolution 32-2021. All those in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
Those opposed say no. Motion carries unanimously. Thank you. Item 13, report from Alderperson Dan Stevens.
That's me.
You have the floor.
So tonight, I'd like to speak about some events happening in our fair city. It's nice from time to time to take a small break from discussion over policy procedures and budgets to highlight some of the good things happening here in Onalaska. So Great River Sound, which is literally happening right now, happens every Tuesday night, June through July at Dash Park. It's a free to the public concert located just a block away from us here. And with a different band each week from 6:30 to 8:30 p.m. And it's goodwill for the community because the Rotary Club, which is near and dear to me, is collecting donations for the Rotary Mobile Medical Clinic, which partners with the St. Clair Health Mission. All 9 local Rotaries in the area are working to raise a combined goal of $240,000. Once completed, the clinic will offer health care to the under and uninsured in the Cooley region. Donations are especially appreciated because there is a matching grant, which is $3 for every $1 collected. So this free to the public concert promises to be a good time, although tonight it's a little toasty over there. And I'd like to thank there's everybody who's involved. And if I could briefly just talk about some of the bands that we're going to have and the people that make that happen. So last week we started off with a Time and a Half band, and that was sponsored by JRM CPAs over at East Main. Tonight, sweltering in the heat, we have Pigtown Fling, which is sponsored by Supreme Lending, which is over on 2nd Avenue North. Sapsuckers will be hosted by our sponsor, Kim Smith, not as a mayor. She's actually doing this out of her own pocket. So it's not a taxpayer thing, but she's out of the goodness of her heart wanting to recognize previous elected officials. And she kind of made up our own event and our event, and that's going to be a lot of fun. We have a tug through EWH Accountants over on Oak Forest Avenue. Lighthouse and Compass will end up June, and that will be sponsored by the Onalaska United Methodist Church over on 4th Avenue North. At the Troubadogs starting July with Becker Tax and Bookkeeping, 2nd Avenue South. Jenna Ray will be performing the second week from Fleiss Insurance on East Main. Crooked Willow is going to be through Clocky Investments on 2nd Avenue. We have a band coming from Texas called the Flying A's, and that's sponsored by Merchants Bank over by Marketplace. The Lighthold Trio, sponsored by Co-op Credit Union over on French Road and Highway 16. The Tequila Brothers, sponsored by our friends in Holman at the new, or soon to be new, Winona National Bank. We have Greg Hall performing from Edward Jones. Jenny Akins is the person there on PH. Nehigh July from Solar Solutions, which is part of Matthew on 10th Avenue North. And then ending with Andy Hughes and the Mighty Few from Ultra Advisors over on Oak Forest. So the remarkable thing to note here is that we have a lot of different groups coming together to make some positive events happen. We have the service organization, in this case, it's the Hilltopper Rotary organizing the event. We have Onalaska businesses providing the financial means. We have local musicians providing the entertainment, and I would argue cultural enrichment. And then also the city of Onalaska, which has provided the infrastructure and the amenities at Dash Park. Then finally, it should not be discounted that we have all the people coming together from the community, the patrons that are really why we're all here. And they're helping the charitable causes that we're trying to bring together. If you'll indulge me a little point farther, people may have noticed downtown if you walk around, it's been a little bit more interesting this week. We've had artists of varying age and skill which have participated in Pop-Up Art Onalaska. There are 35 different paintings at Onalaska various businesses, schools, and points of interest. I won't name all 35 businesses that are there, but the point is that the cultural enrichment of our community, and it's going to make things aesthetically nicer and more interesting downtown. And like the concert, we see that same fusion from different aspects in our community coming together to make Onalaska a great place to call home. Here you have the Onalaska Art Keepers, which is a new service organization. It was born out of the City of Onalaska Arts Commission. We have again, the business sponsors that stepped up to make this happen. We have local artists ranging from professional adults, high school, and even some middle school students who are talented that are bringing their art to brighten our city. So bringing all these people together so that everyone can benefit from an enhanced quality of life should be recognized and supported. And all of this happens without taxpayer assistance. So I guess my final thought is I would encourage everyone to go out. We might get the end of the concert tonight if we end early, and enjoy everything that Onalaska has to offer. Go to a concert, take a stroll down Main Street and see some of the art that's popped up. And if you enjoy what you hear and you enjoy what you see, be sure to thank the sponsors for their gifts to the community. So thank you.
Thank you, Alder Stevens. Item 14, report from Alderperson Stephen Knott and Jim Olson. Jim or Steve?
Okay. So a few days ago, I guess we may have had an incident that involved one of the employees and a lack of understanding between the employee and a supervisor. There's a breakdown in communication somewhere on what the mask guidance is. So I think when I heard word of this, that I just thought it might be wise to take a look at the policy, make sure that, again, it's uniform, that it makes sense, and that everybody understands what it is at every level. I don't know if, Jim, did you want to go into details? I know they contacted you first.
I just want to say that somebody reiterate from the front so that I can hear you clearly, because our policy on who makes policy now is confusing to me, because under our form of government, I do not think that our city attorney has the right and the power to make policy. She has a right to make a suggestion, in my opinion. And so if you want to give me a legal description of where I'm wrong, I'll be willing to listen to you. Secondly, on this document that I've handed out for people to look at, list some of these concerns I have about the way things were handled. And if in fact I am wrong on the policy, then I also assume then that there was no money changing hands for these documents to be listed. Because if there was, they never came through the common council, and they should have been.
Jim, do you have another copy? Because I don't have a copy of what you're talking about. Does everybody else?
You don't?
No. They are added to the agenda? Okay, then I'll,
So Jim, what document are you referring to? Just if you could state it for the record, so like
Yeah,
everybody
there's
listening
a-
can know what we're talking.
There's a document
it must have
from May 17th,
today.
2021,
That one, that was in the inbox. right?
17, oh, that's this one, okay. I have it.
and there's a document from May 19th, 2021, both from the city attorney to Justin Swartling.
Okay.
Okay, so are you done talking for right now, or can we go to
He's
someone?
done.
Okay, let's go to Eric Reinflush, City Administrator.
Going back to over a year ago now, the council under both mayoral, sort of looking for
Emergency.
emergency orders, followed up by resolutions. The action was taken, basically empowering the city administrator to manage the day-to-day operations of City Hall, and that went from closing it down to reopening it up in a safe manner. So all the policies, including the ones listed here on May 18th, were actions taken by city administrator to impart that, both provide some, coverage for employees during the worst of the pandemic, and then reopen City Hall to staff, to the public. That went from, wearing masks to then being able to take the masks off following CDC guidelines. And that's part of the guidelines was administrator would follow basically what the county had given as recommendations, as well as CDC guidance. So at no time, and the attorney will justify this, has the city attorney unilaterally made any policy whatsoever. That this is basically a city administrator policy as empowered by the council going back over a year regarding that pandemic. And again, directions to eventually open up as we basically are now, as open as we can be pre-pandemic wise. We still sit apart from each other a little bit, but we're basically there. The reason why Amanda's name is on there is exactly as you've seen. One of those in particular is a FAQ, receiving many questions regarding sort of the very same questions. And instead of writing something, giving it to Amanda to review, make those corrections and send it back out there, basically what you have here are two documents that are the legal opinions stated in a document form for the global review. This went out globally, so you all would have received this on May 18th as well. So this wasn't specifically to one particular person. And again, this has been ongoing. There's been policy updates, throughout the last year and a half for, staff to follow and what have you. In terms of money exchange, I have no idea what that references. In terms of who's paying who for the global email policies that went out. I'll let you follow up with that and clarify. And I guess the last thing too is in terms of the whole process, much of your staff has, educational degrees, certifications that kind of prove our experience. But there's only one person in the building that's licensed and that can have a license taken away, and that's your city attorney. And I tell you that in no time, when sort of word is out there that she is making policies or she is doing things unilaterally, that's absolutely not correct, nor can it be correct. She's directly following both my guidance and guidance of policies established by council.
Thank you for that, Eric. Is there someone else? Alder Not?
Yeah, so thank you for clarifying that. Yeah, it is important that policies flow from the city administrator or the council. So thank you, Eric. The second thing is, as far as some of the exceptions to the mask policy, and I'm wondering if this might have led to some of the confusion with the issue that occurred a few days ago, is even under the height of the COVID-19 pandemic last year, this timeframe, when we had the emergency declaration from the governor that was in effect in renewed multiple times and stayed in effect until just a couple months ago. There were exceptions for health conditions. And I'm wondering if that may have been what caused some of the confusion here, that if somebody has a health condition that precludes them from safely wearing a mask, say a pulmonary condition, like maybe severe asthma would be a case, then in the past, there has always been an exception for that at every level. And I'm wondering if maybe that might have led to this, because I don't see that in either one of these letters as an exception. And there are other exceptions too. I mean, when you're drinking or eating, I would argue when you're speaking, I mean, I've been putting my mask on and off. I take it off when I'm speaking specifically because I want people to understand me, and then I'll put it back on unless I'm drinking, reading. So there are exceptions to these rules, and I just think that maybe that we need to have them clarified for everybody within the city. And we might have avoided what occurred earlier this week.
Thank you. Eric?
Those same exceptions for the mask policy were always there. But I would agree when you look at this, if the exceptions to sort of the FAQs that we were getting at the time seem to spell out and override that general policy, then I think it's appropriate that we can clarify that.
Thank you. Anyone else? Alder Wolf.
Perhaps I shouldn't ask, but I guess I'm perplexed. Could Alder Olson explain the comment, money changing hands? I don't understand. Am I missing something? What did you mean by that reference, money changing hands?
I don't remember exactly how I said that. But when, in our form of government, as I understand it, we control the amount of money that's spent, correct? Okay, so when, as Eric explained, when we change that policy and we usurp that power and give it to somebody else, then we start running into problems for some reason, and I don't know why we are.
Okay. Alder.
So was that a fair enough explanation for you?
I guess it'll do. Thank you.
Okay, thank you.
Any other comments? Okay, item 15, adjournment. I'll entertain a motion to adjourn.
Motion to adjourn.
Second.
Motion by Alder Smith, seconded by Alder Olson to adjourn. All those in favor, please say aye.
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 Those opposed, we are adjourned. The time is 8:08.
Are we also joining?
I don't know. I